This is day 10 of a very intense training in Japan. So there are questions that are coming up and maybe some answers. Here is a question. Why are we in Japan? Like, why did we...
travel from London?
Yeah. What was all that about?
The energy in Europe is quite heavy and watery right now, so it's not conducive to self-development. Actually, it brings you down, and many people subconsciously realize that. So I know many successful entrepreneurs who move to Dubai or Miami or just elsewhere, somewhere in the world, because they subconsciously feel that the heavy, watery energy is stagnating them and dragging them down. Same with self-development. So especially for this kind of work, every person has its unique energy signature. And so it's very important that your environment supports you on this journey, because as you know yourself, it's actually quite a delicate process. Like, you grow, and the process of growth makes you vulnerable at some point. So you want that environment to be as supportive as possible, and traveling to the place that is really aligned with your energy helps you massively. So for you, it's Japan, but for other people, it were different places. So for example, Iceland, Costa Rica, even Dubai, it all depends on what you want to achieve and what your energy is like.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think the biggest relief I've had is knowing what to practice. Of all the millions and billions of practices that exist, just do this for 5 minutes a day, just do this for 10 minutes a day. Before you know it, your days just like run out. So I know that the practices we've been going through that have had a remarkable impact on me have taken 20 minutes max a day.
What was your best takeaway or takeaways?
For me, it was the idea of just allowing life to move you and to go with the flow of things. Still in control of your destiny and whatnot, but on a minute-to-minute basis.
You mean the life force?
Yeah, to allow your life force to come up and guide you and embrace that rather than trying to resist it. And my insight this morning was, wow, all the resistance that I've been fighting against has actually just been damaging me, as opposed to just embrace stuff. Go with the flow.
All right. That can be so misinterpreted by so many people.
I realise that. So that is the difficulty of words. And, you know, through your teachings, I know how that can be misinterpreted.
Yes.
Because that almost could move somebody who's listening to this to a state of powerlessness. Oh, just be one, everything is destiny. No.
Yeah, just embrace it.
Right, no. These are the nuances that you can't get from necessarily a book. Right? These are what comes from the work.
Yes.
And so, yeah, to tie that up or to expand on that a bit, it's more about, yeah, taking command of your life and knowing who you are and what you're about. It's more that you are synchronized with your internal life force.
Yes.
So the ego is not trying to push you one way and your internal life force is pushing you another way.
Yeah.
That would create that resistance. It's more about letting go of this now and allowing this, which is what you're all about anyway, to do its job.
Yes, because essentially we obviously exist as human beings having physical bodies, but from the universe's point of view, we are like nodes in a vast network of life force, and we send and project information and life force from ourselves into the world, so we get affected by other nodes and we affect them as well, but also because it's a bigger network and we're just one part of it, although obviously an intrinsic and important part. So that life force is like electricity that flows through the entire network. It's sentient, it has a purpose. That's what the Jedi call the Force. It tries to always bring the best for you, and quite often people block its flow, and so the life and the health suffers in those areas specifically where that life force is not flowing, because it's always trying to mend, it's always trying to improve. It's one of its properties. So it tries to help you evolve. But what most people don't realize is because of their ego attitude, of their preconceived ideas of what should be, or even other people's ideas of what they should want, whatever is imposed by the society. what happens is all those blockages accumulate over time, and so the body ages faster. And stress is one of those examples, but there are also stresses, internal blockages that we don't even realize that they're there.
Yeah, I think that's been a massive thing for me, is just having you point out areas where like you're carrying tension there, or you're carrying stress there. But you didn't say it like that. You're more very to the point and just highlighting behaviors I was doing, little patterns, unconscious routines and patterns, even the way I was talking to people.
Yes.
That differentiate when I'm at one versus when I'm going through a robotic sequence of conversation and pattern behavior.
Yeah.
Which is easy to slip into.
Oh yeah. This is why it's good to work with a mentor, because many people say that they want to change and improve, but if there isn't anyone to watch over you, then you don't know when you're doing things wrong. Like that exercise for increasing inner force that we were doing, and you didn't realize that your spine wasn't straight. You were leaning forward without even knowing. So you could have been practicing on your own and just make this mistake until it actually gets ingrained. So this is why it's good to have someone, well, a tribe or a mentor working with you.
Absolutely. Reminds me actually how, you go through life and you find teachers, but not, some teachers are great, and some teachers are just teachers, and maybe they're a signpost to something. But I've noticed when I've worked with other teachers, they haven't had that level of granularity that you bring to the table, metaphorically, where you're spotting all the small things as well as the big things. And I know in other areas of my life that I've studied, I've picked up bad habits, where another teacher's come along and said, oh, this person told you to do this, actually do it this way. And the progress of other disciplines that I've followed has been the feeling of taking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So what I love about your training is the lessons are at what I would call the meta level. In other words, they trickle down. So what I learn here, I can apply, for example, to boxing, or I can apply to, if I'm developing a skill like learning to skateboard or something like that, it all applies. Sales. Yeah.
Setting up your business.
Sure. Creating a business. When you said sales, I was thinking of a boat. Like, oh yeah, putting up the sails of a boat, that would make. But yes, anything, because it's teaching you the mindfulness and how you handle challenges, how you move through challenges, how you grow, how you build. So yeah, that's been pretty incredible. But who would I recommend this to? Anyone who feels that they are not content with just living a mediocre life. Right? You're not content with a 9 till 5. You're not content with not being the star of your show. Someone who, if you're there and you're thinking, there's got to be more to it than this.
Main character energy.
Yeah, if you feel like an NPC, non-playable character, definitely. I was fortunate in that I didn't feel like an NPC, but I did feel like time is slipping by. This great destiny that I need to fulfill hasn't arrived yet. And I've done things in my life and had successes, but I know the difference in here between when it feels like, this feels like I'm smashing it, versus I'm just going through the motions. Anyone who feels destined for more, where they haven't found the teacher or the training, someone who actually wants skillful, meticulous training.
Masculine presence rather than the masculine mask.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm convinced that the ultimate skill is to develop concentration.
And presence. Increasing the level of life force.
Right.
Because you can be as concentrated as you like, but if you don't have enough energy to move through life like a force of nature, you just stop there.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I'd also recommend it to anyone who feels low on energy. When you're just like, you didn't have the vitality that you had before.
Share that Harajuku experience with the crowds.
I just don't like crowds of people. Early in my life, I was an introvert, so I'd hide in the library, and then I learnt to become more extroverted. I don't need to, go to all tourist areas like Trevi Fountain in Italy, for example, or Harajuku in Japan, which is just full of people dressed as cats and all sorts of nuttiness. And yeah, so before I would give that a wide berth, and I would avoid it, and it would make me feel tense just being there, because like, why do I have
Uneasy, yeah.
Uneasy, yeah. And so through our training, where my mindset's changed, it's not that I'm like, oh, I can walk through that space now and it doesn't affect me. That's what happened. But it's not because that I've put up some shield or something. It's irrelevant.
Well, it all comes down to the quality of your energy, because what happens is, if your energy is low, then other people's energy start affecting you big time. And this is why you feel uneasy. And this happens to a lot of people. And simply because your energy is so rarefied, anything can get through. And especially in the crowd, where lots of different people and different auras mix. And sometimes, well, that people's energy can be not very positive, to say the least. And as it rubs against you, you just carry it. Sometimes you carry that uneasy feeling for hours afterwards. So what happens is, when you train to develop your inner power and the strength of your presence, then, as I said, you start moving through life like a force of nature. So let's say you go somewhere and your energy is so dense that it affects others in the room. So you walk in and instantly all the eyes turn towards you, and instantly you are the authority in that room, and other people's energy doesn't really affect you because it simply can't get through your personal energy field. So you go through a crowd, through any place, and you are influencing it instead of being influenced.
Yeah, I just noticed that subtly, people moving out of the way, but also in the terms of being all right with walking into a space and all eyes on you. Because, you know, for a long time, I taught confidence and boldness and that kind of, charisma. So being comfortable on stage. But there's one thing being comfortable on stage and having all eyes on you and getting through it and like, no big deal. But there's another thing where it's almost like, that's part of it. That's who I am now. And so it's got me to that next level on my own progress, on my own journey. So what's been awesome is having a very clear map. So what I mean by that is, I've always wanted to know what my purpose is, what I'm supposed to be here to do. And I was missing the most important step, which is what we've been covering on this training, which is becoming the person I need to be who creates that purpose.
Absolutely.
I was trying to jump past that step and find my purpose. Like one day, oh, there's a magic lamp at the bottom of my garden that's going to transport me.
Oh, you wake up and you find it in the post.
Right, yeah. So expecting, hope, or just wishing like Frodo, someone's going to drop a ring on my lap. And, oh, now I've got a reason. Now I've got a big purpose. But it's not that. I think in like stories like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings sort of thing, the hero becomes a hero through their journey.
Yes.
Totally valid. I had been looking for that though, rather than what this training I feel is more centered towards is become the hero, then go on the journey, then fight the battle. So this feels more in alignment with me now, because I've done crazy stuff. I've gone to jungles, I've meditated in strange places and jumped out of planes and I don't know, all sorts of crazy things. But it was never that, there was never that insight. So now this is what I'm developing, and this all now feels in alignment. I feel like strong.
Good to hear. And I love that you mentioned that, because this is what happens with many trainings that help, well, are supposed to help guys develop more masculine presence, because they tell them what to do. They tell them, oh yeah, take this action, take that action, jump off the plane, do something crazy, talk to that girl, do. And thing is, what you do is actually secondary of who you are. So it's about changing your internal structure, how you might operate on a deeper level, like changing your OS. And then what you do flows naturally. So then it's not even out of your comfort zone, it's well within your comfort zone and more. But the whole idea of seeing yourself through the different eyes, this is what is the most important part of the journey.
I've been in self-development for 20 years, and that was a massive missing piece, which is one of the so this is just one of the things I learned. Like, so the paradigm that I feel is incorrect is jumping out your comfort zone or being at the edge of your comfort zone all times to grow, which makes sense. But as you just said, being the kind of person where that becomes irrelevant, there isn't necessarily a comfort zone. You're just doing what you do.
Yeah.
And so I was going through this repetitive cycle of being a masochist of like, gotta break my comfort zone, gotta push harder. And then, yeah, you get growth, but again, you never get that internal connection because you're trying to run more and more intense programs on the same operating system.
Exactly.
Rather than changing the operating system in the first place, which isn't an operating system that runs on get to the edge of your comfort zone. Like, can you imagine like some warrior going into battle, like, oh, just get to the edge of my comfort zone. Like, it's just irrelevant. Like, or a samurai.
Yeah, because, yeah, exactly. It's part of who you are. An example that I often give people is, imagine with this type of trainings, they say they give you skills. And those skills are like new cool apps on your phone. And so you download more and more of them because they say, oh, it's going to fix your glitchy OS if you install this app and that app. Well, what really happens, they actually clog your phone. And so it starts getting slower and the glitches or whatever the problem was with the original operation system doesn't actually get solved. It gets worse. And this is what I see in self-development so much. It really pains me.
For sure. I take some heart in that because I have hardly any apps on my phone. That seems very zen. So yeah, this has been fantastic training and only halfway through. Well, that's actually a bit of a lie because this was the last day of the training, but it was so good, I decided to extend it for another 10 days because I've just been having so many insights and breakthroughs. Not breakdowns, luckily, but maybe that's in the next 10 days. Hopefully not. If you don't see another video, that's because I had a breakdown and it's like, what happened with that Marcus guy? Oh, we don't talk about him anymore. Like, just joined a monastery or something. No, it's been like life-changing. So I'm like, I'm going to stay here a lot longer. I don't think, I've never been to a training where I'm like, I'm going to change all my flights, change all my plans because of the quality of the training. But that's happened. So yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. I don't usually do it myself. So this has been an unprecedented experience, I would say, for both of us, because as Marcus was training, I realized that the time that we originally allotted was good. It would give him a solid foundation, but it wasn't ideal. That he needed a few more days to solidify what he has learned and build up on that, so that when he goes back, he knows for sure that he's not going to slip back into his old identity and old patterns. And so yeah, we decided to extend the training, which never happened before. So fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Time for matcha latte.
Matcha latte, yes. One of the perks of training in Tokyo. Ha!
That's good.
Yeah.